Okay, so dear Dharma practitioners, be comfortable yourself and relax your body. And keep your back straight, neck head straight in one line, and your right palm on your left. So gently close your eyes and bring your attention to this bell sound. And while you focus into the sound, mentally relax your body, relax your mind, and relax your breathing with your thoughts. So do nothing extra. Just follow the sound, please. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Homage to the Blessed One, the Exalted One, the fully enlightened One. So dear Dhamma practitioners, before we start our practice session, as usual, we'll take few minutes to understand ourselves, how this practice can provide some facility for us to develop our inner awareness and how it can lead us to ultimate goal of wisdom. So when it comes to Buddhism, it has a long history. It's 2,600 years old. And as you know, any teaching, when it comes through the people, sometimes it can change. So kind of like, because in the beginning, all the teachings came orally and not even by one person or one group. There are different sectors of the community of Sangha belong to the Dharma, and they used to memorize and used to orally through chanting brought this. And then around kind of like a few hundred years back, they start to write down it. And now we have many ways to access. And in this journey of the Dharma, and even before the Buddhas passed away, that the very beginning of 20 years, we call it early Buddhism. In the purely, the Buddha himself directly gave the Dhamma to his followers. So this early Buddhism, and after that first 20 years, then there are different sutras came from different directions. Many opinions, ideas start to mix with the Dhamma. And so this in the early Buddhism, there are some teachings. Whenever you have time, you should go and check. So what is the very nature and the teachings then of the early Buddhism? It is very authentic. It's go directly to the deeper details. It's mostly related to the Vipassana. There is nothing to do with the culture or the tradition or that kind of things. It's pure, direct teachings. So when it comes to that, as you know, in this human world, most of people, especially that come to this spiritual practice because they look some kind of freedom, liberation, and some kind of release related to the self. So this idea of self, and when it comes to the Buddha's teaching that emptiness is one of the major foundation and this core teachings, emptiness. So that emptiness, most of time, we try to understand and explain through this outside world, especially with this material world. But when it comes to this early Buddhism, the emptiness itself means the emptiness of self, not about that other things. The emptiness of self. Because people had a great interest regarding this self. What is this self? And they look into that. Then, as you know, most of the spiritual teachings around the world still mainly based with the idea of self. So when it comes to this early Buddhism, regarding this self, it's a three-pointed emptiness, threefold emptiness. So understanding this is very important, especially when you go through with this vipassana practice. What is this emptiness mean? So when it comes to that, you should know it is about completely the idea of self, not about the world. So people used to look for something very permanent, everlasting, eternal, imperishable, and it's kind of like something lasts forever. That kind of like immortal, eternal place or the idea, or to be like that way. People had that cravingness. And they, everywhere in the world, people look into that. So in this three-pointed emptiness, talk about this permanent, everlasting, eternal, imperishable idea. So the first one is emptiness of possession. The very word, the possession, is that idea of hold it to something, or being someone, or hold into any kind of property or position. So as example, God, the idea of the God, angel, human. So to be in that possession. So there is no such a permanent, unchangeable, everlasting, eternal, and immortal position or possession. There is no place like that, or there is no one to be like that. That is one thing. So when it comes to the idea of self, that you want to become someone, but you have to understand, even just looking at this very human life, if you look very carefully, that every day that you change, but still we introduce ourselves as, oh, I'm a human, I'm a man, I'm a woman. So kind of like that way. Oh, I'm a monk, or I'm a teacher. So kind of like that. But if you look, it has a journey. There's no that unchangeable, everlasting, the position that you can hold. So when it comes to that, it's just kind of like an idea that we hold and we believe, and then we start to follow for that, to become like that. So you can go through any position, but remember, the one emptiness that what in the Buddhas talk about, this emptiness of possession. There is no in this universe that unchangeable, everlasting, immortal place that you can settle down. But people, even in this very lifetime, look ourselves. So, and then you have to develop your mind, cultivate your mind with your just thoughts, even to understand it in a very basic way, that whatever the lifestyle that you go through, because that little deeper understanding will help you to multiply it and bring it as a profitable skill to yourself. So whatever that you go through the position in your life, don't try to hold it as you, or don't try to use it to introduce yourself. Mostly that is what we do in day-to-day life, in a very conventional life. But yourself, you mentally, you should not bound to that. That is one thing. That as example, if I bound to this, the monkhood myself, oh, I am a monk. You know, in the very conventional level, that is very important. But if we look deeper, there is no such a position that I can hold myself as a monk. So if I hold it to that monkhood myself, what will happen deeper in my mind? I start to develop an egocentric, self-centered idea belong to that monkhood. That is what happened in day-to-day life. You hold it to as you are a woman, you are a man, or I am this kind of person, that kind of person. So kind of like that. But if I hold myself, oh, I am a monk, okay, very conventionally it is very necessary, but what position I should hold? Because according to the age, and time to time, and in the beginning, in the very first time period, we call it as a samanera. That's kind of like a beginner, like a training period we go through until we become young, like 18 years or 20 years, or kind of like that. That period we introduce as samanera. It's kind of like a trainer. So then still for people, they can say, I'm a monk. And then After that, then we get into high ordination. So a high ordination is kind of like you entering to the real monkhood. So then if I hold that, so after high ordination, that after 10 years, in that period, you become kind of like a permanent in the path. It's called the stavira. It's kind of like you are now permanent monk. So from, it doesn't matter what time you became a monk, but it's kind of like at least you have to be 30 years old to become a stavira. So like that, in that way, which age or which time period I hold as me, or I am this is the monk. This is the position of monk. There is no such a thing. So in whole life like that. So you can hold as a girl or boy, and then you become teenage, and then you become young, and then once you get married, you become husband and wife, and then once you have children, you become a father and a mother. And once that you can't stop that children's life, and once they go through their process, and then by the time you become a grandfather or grandmother, and then by the time maybe grandfather, grandmother, also kind of like that. So then which part of this you hold as your position? So it's changed. So like that, there is no such a permanent, unchangeable, everlasting, eternal and immortal position that we can hold. Or there is no property that we can get into and be there like that. So that is one thing. So the second one is emptiness of doctrine of self. So when it comes to the self, and people introduce this self in different ways. There are a lot of doctrines, teachings. There are a lot of kind of Dharma in the world, the ideas in the world about the self. And so then which doctrine, which teachings, which Dhamma you accept as self, and how it going to take you or introduce to deeper liberation? Because, and sometimes some people say, oh, my thoughts is myself, my consciousness is myself, my body is myself, and my identity is myself. So like that, there are many doctrines around the world about the self. And then there is no such a permanent, everlasting, that the doctrine can take you to complete happiness or the satisfaction, everlasting satisfaction. Because that whatever the idea of self, once you hold it to the self, it's going to take you to the suffering, unsatisfaction, the pain, sadness, distress. So that kind of things. try to understand it very. If there is any doctrine explain exactly something as this is self, that permanent, unchangeable doctrines or the explanation will end with the suffering. So that's why even the Dharma, even the Buddha's teaching, what the Buddha told about it, the one of the very good example or the simile about the parable of raft. You use it only to cross the river. See? And after that, or before that, it's not going to help for you. So the same thing when it comes to doctrine, you have to be very careful. And if you hold it as a kind of like a very permanent and very personal and eternal way, if you hold, and the idea of the self, once you get as something, what will happen? It's going to take you to the wrong understanding. So that's why the emptiness of doctrine of self, there in the world, in the universe, the world, there is no such a permanent way of explaining exactly something. This is self. There is no. People talk about different things. And then if there is something like that, it will end with the suffering, sorrow, lamentation, pain, sadness, distress, unsatisfaction. So kind of like that. Then there is no way it's going to take you to liberation. So that is the second one. And the third one is emptiness of view. Ourself, that as I am, my self-centered view, and as you know, it changes moment by moment, moment by moment. And it's kind of like that. If you yourself, your point of view, or that take as a very permanent way, and it also going to take you to the suffering, unsatisfaction, pain, lamentation, and sadness, worry. So and then for that there is another example. It's kind of like the Dharma, even the teachings. It's kind of like a snake. You have to catch it in the right place. So that's mean when you understand something, that the point of view that you gain out of the teachings, you have to be very careful. Because if you get it in a wrong way, even though it is the Dhamma that can give someone to attain to the liberation, maybe for you, according to your point of view, what will happen, it's going to change your destination. Maybe the same Dhamma, someone else catch it in the right way, that as example, person A get it in a right way, and then that person attain to the liberation. Maybe the person B, same Dhamma, the same thing, the same point of the teachings, and get the wrong way, and that person going to end with the greater suffering. See, the same teaching can change according to your point of view. So then the point of view, you have to remember, it is not you cannot have a very permanent, unchangeable, everlasting, immortal, eternal imperishable, that view. So then you have to be very careful regarding that, what the view that we hold regarding the self. So once you become very clear, that is why to get out of this, by thinking we can't do. So that's why we need to come to a place that our thought currents become neutral, at least little bit. So then that place we call equanimity, or in the present moment, you not influenced by sanskara or the mental formations or your memory, but still through the perception that whatever you perceive bring the direct understanding. So in that very moment or the very level, you are capable to clear this. And little by little, and once you have that clarity and observing yourself through the vipassana, you gain the deeper clarity regarding this emptiness about the self. With the position, with the doctrine of self, and with the point of view, emptiness of view. So once you have that clarity, that emptiness, that understanding, and that is where your transformation, your liberation meet with you. And that is where the deeply your ultimate goal, your finish line, you're going to meet, which we call the Nibbana. So then it is nothing to do with this outside. It is deeply about this idea of self. So with that, let's get into practice a little bit. So your right palm on your left, neck head straight in one line, and be comfortable with your posture. Scan head to toes yourself 3 times and say Swapatveva, or may I be well and happy. Take a moment and think. We gathered here in this moment to practice this ancient meditation technique. All the Buddhas, all the enlightened masters followed this path and achieved wisdom. So we also gathered here to acknowledge that knowledge. In this moment, with this sitting, may my body become more comfortable, may my breath be more smooth, may no difficulties come to me, may all the success come to me. Also think for a moment, this is the last moment we're spending in this very lifetime, and detach your mind from all your past memories and as well as any kind of future thoughts. Just try to remain in the present moment, observing the sensation of your inhalations and exhalations. So in the beginning, deeply and gently, breathe in, breathe out 3 times and find the sensation, please. And allow your inhalations, exhalations happen itself. When it happens through the sensation, recognize it, do nothing extra. Bring your attention to your body, please. Observe your posture. We cultivate loving kindness and compassion in our heart and radiate it as a light through entire your compound, village, city, state, country, world, around this universe. Also as far as you can through galaxies, other planets, stars. Reminding yourself like this. With clear intention, mentally repeat after me. May all living beings in this universe be well and happy. May everyone be happy and safe. And may their hearts be filled with joy. May all living beings live in security and in peace. Beings who are frail or strong, tall or short, big or small, visible or not visible, near or far away. Already born or yet to be born. May all of them dwell in perfect tranquility. Let no one do harm to anyone. Let no one put the life of anyone in danger. Let no one out of anger or ill will wish anyone any harm. Expand the loving kindness and compassion beginning from your heart. Forward. Visualize yourself and send it as a light. To your backside. To your left side. And to your right side. Downward. And upward. to all six directions at once, like the moon, the sun. Spread the light, spread the energy without any condition, without any limitation, without any resistance or without any judgment. Let your heart to shine with the loving kindness and compassion from the bottom of it, with the maximum effort to the highest, wishing yourself, may all living beings in this universe be well and happy. Say sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. So first of all, we offer this practice to the great qualities of the Buddha, Dhamma and the Sangha. And also by the power of this meritorious deed, may all of us attain to the supreme bliss of Nibbana. May all your guardian angels and deities will receive these merits and increase their longevity and protect all of you from any kind of influences or any ill effects. Ittavata cammehi sampadam punya sampadam sabbe deva numodantu sabba sampatti siddhya sabbe bhuta numodantu sabba sampatti siddhya sabbe satta numodantu sabba sampatti siddhya imaya dhamma nu dhamma patipattiya buddham pujemi dhammam pujemi sangham pujemi Addaya imaya patipattiya jati jara vyadi maranam ha paribunjisami Idamme punya kammang asavakkaya vahang hotu sabba dukkha pamuncatu. Bless you.